Welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie. I am your host, State Librarian Mary Soucie. We will interview North Dakota librarians and library staff, state government leaders and employees, and interesting North Dakotans. Join us as we meander down the pathways through the prairie. I'm joined today by Randi Monley, the children's librarian at Minot Public Library. I've known Randi for about 10 years, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So thank you for joining me, Randi.
Sure thing.
So, Randi, the mission of the State Library is creating pathways to information and innovation. What was your pathway into libraries?
It was interesting. So I got a bachelor's degree in English literature, which is very random, not education based. And I was a para at a middle school for a little while, and that was really fun, and I really connected with the kids. And then I got married, and I had a baby, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was part of a mother's group. And I met a chatter there, who is our teen librarian, and I just needed to get out of the house at night. And she was like, "You should come work at the library. You would love it." So I started upstairs in the adult library, just 2 evenings a week and some weekends, and I really enjoyed it. I was up there for about 3 years, and then I wanted more. I wanted more responsibility. I wanted to keep on. I went full time down in the children's area, and I loved it, and I had a ton of ideas. And the children's librarian at the time was like, you're it. And she said, "I'm going to be retiring in a couple of years, and I'm going to train you, and you're going to take my job, and you are going to rock it." And I was like, let's do this. And that's kind of how it all went.
Awesome. So, what were you hoping to do with a literature degree, if not teach?
I don't really know. We were at the Mall of America. I was part of Sigma Tau Delta, which was like a literature thing, and I was giving a paper, and I found this book, and it's like, I have a literature degree. Now what? And it had all these really great jobs. It was like, you could be, a librarian, or you could work as a barista. So I was like, okay.
Little different.
Yeah. When I went to college, I never really thought of it as a path toward a career. It was more, what do I really want to learn about? And I still feel that way. I take a lot of continuing education classes. I've been accepted into master's programs that I can't go to right now because of life. But I just want to keep learning always.
That's awesome. And that fits really well with your career now as a librarian, because libraries are about lifelong learning and personal enrichment. So it's a great match.
Yeah, definitely.
So obviously what drew you to the children's side of the library is just your love of working with children. What has been your favorite thing about being a librarian, especially a children's librarian?
One of my favorite things is seeing kids come in and just be so stinking excited to be here. They know here that all of us, the team in children's here, we see those kids for who they are and where they are. And it is amazing when they come back and they're like, "Hi, Miss Randi." And the other day there was this gal in, and last summer she was looking for a book and we didn't have it in. So I recommended a different series to her. And she was in 3 weeks ago. She is still reading the series I recommended last year because it is now her favorite series. Those little moments make it so rewarding and worthwhile because you know that you are changing people's lives.
Absolutely. Have you had any challenges?
Yeah.
Name one, just pick one.
Okay, so recently we have had a remodel. And at that point, our director was leaving, so new director. I definitely do not know how to remodel, but I became a four-person basically of this huge remodel, and it's been really challenging, and it's, you know, over, but it's not over. So well, we're still touching stuff up and working on it, and it's been a challenge, but I've learned things and I've grown, and you know,
Well,
challenges beget that.
yes. Oh, absolutely. Challenges are just opportunities for growth. The remodel was significant. It made some significant changes, and I had the opportunity recently with Brianne actually to tour your area. And for those who don't know, Brianne is another staff member here at NDSL. And we toured the remodel of the children's department, and I definitely had an area that was my favorite. But what would you say is your favorite part of the remodel?
My favorite part are the little circles that kids can sit in and read. And I really, when I did that, I was like, I don't know if people are going to use these, but I really like it, and I would have loved it as a kid, like a nook. And the first like couple of weeks we were open, kids would walk in, they go, oh, and they would run to the circles. They loved them so much. And there's like a play area, but they love these little nooks. And I see kids, like little kids sitting in there with their adults reading a book together. And I see teenagers in the nooks doing homework. And it makes me so happy.
Had you been there when we toured, you also would have seen a state librarian sitting in your nook.
Oh,
And
yeah.
ironically and unprompted, that was actually my favorite part.
Really? Yeah.
Yes. You can ask Brianne. I sat down, I made her take a picture of me sitting in the nook. I just absolutely loved them. What has been patrons' favorite part of the remodel?
I definitely think the play area in North Dakota, it is weather. So it's great to have a free space where kids can play no matter what it's like outside. And I wish it could be bigger. I wish we could have more things, but I know that it's being used and loved. Sometimes the parents can't even be in there with the kids. The parents are standing outside watching their kids play because there's not enough space. And it's a great meeting place for parents looking, or caregivers looking for somebody to connect with, looking for friends for their little kids, and let's have a play date. And you see, you know, families leaving and they're like, hey, let me get your number so we can meet up. And it makes me really happy because that was something that I strived for, being a part of that mom's group, you know, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, he just turned 12. So it's great that I can help people who are where I was.
That's so awesome. I know when we were visiting, and you happened to be out that day, we popped in because we were in town for something else, but it was so fun. We saw a little one. I mean, he was probably 2 or 3, and I don't know if it was his parent or his caregiver, said, "You can't take your socks off at the library. You're not at home." You know, but kids are clearly so comfy in that space that like he just took off his socks and shoes because, you know, he was somewhere that he was that comfortable. And I love that you've created such a wonderful space for kids to experience and to just be who they are. I loved what you said at the beginning, like you see kids for who they are and where they're at. And that's wonderful because there's so many places now where we don't have those opportunities to just come and exist and be who we are. And that's definitely a need that libraries meet, and your library's meeting it in such an awesome way. What are some of the changes that you've seen because of the remodel that weren't anticipated?
I did not anticipate, I mean, I kind of to a point anticipated moving some of the collections. Okay. But I did not anticipate that people were not seeing some collections because of where they were placed. So now we're seeing collections that didn't have a lot of circulation, like just fly off the shelves. We are seeing more people with the remodel. Like I knew it would draw people in, but it's not just drawing them in and they're like, oh, that's cool. And they leave, they're coming back. They're coming back. And even we usually have a little bit of a lull between the end of school and the beginning of summer reading, like a week and a half, too. And we have not had that this year. I mean, it has been insane since the first day of summer break. So those are some things I had not, like I had kind of, but not completely understood about having a new space.
That's awesome. And you talked about families connecting with other families or caregivers connecting with other caregivers. And so one of the things that I often say about libraries is they're the center of their community, right? We connect people to, obviously we connect people to books. We will always be about books, but we're about so much more than books today. We're about resources like online databases, DVDs and board games. Your library has an extensive board game and puzzle collection.
Yeah.
What is something that you think people would be surprised if they walked into your library and found it as part of your collection?
It's always the tool library. That's not really the collection that I do, but it's always fun when I go speak at groups to be like, and the tool library. And they're like, what on earth are you talking about? We also recently started a Tony box collection and Tonys down here. And holy buckets. The Tony boxes have never been on the shelf. The reserve list is super long and they just keep going to people. Yeah, so I think I would personally be surprised to walk in and see a Tony box on a shelf, but that's me.
Okay, so for people who are listening who may not have kiddos or who may not know, what is a Tony box? And then also tell us some of the things that are part of the tool library.
Okay, so the Tony box, it's I don't know, like a cube, and it's really soft and squishy. And then you put these little character guys on top, and it's like Moana or a Paw Patrol dude, and they start playing music or they play a book. I have Matilda, and they just play. That's it. And you just bonk the box, like slap it, and it'll change to the next song. They're super durable. They're for kids 3 years old, maybe younger. There's like yoga and meditation ones. They're really cool. And they're kind of expensive. Like I probably wouldn't buy one. Like they're like $120.
Okay.
But for parents who do have them, we have 80 Tonys. So the Tonys themselves are like $15 to $20.
Wow.
So you can just come in and get some Tonys for your own Tony box. So it's really been helpful to people who want to try it out, see if it's something that their kid likes and if they want to keep doing it or buy one for themselves. Tool library wise, I think it's cool. I often check out this little power station thing, and it can like air my tires. It can jump my battery from my car. It does all sorts of cool things. We also have like a jewelry making kit thing. I have checked out a ladder because I live in an apartment and I am not buying a ladder, but I need to reconnect in my garage door opener to my garage door thing. So just really random things that I'm not gonna go buy, but I will sure check it out.
But you need access to.
Right.
I love that. And I think we have a lot of libraries in North Dakota that now have what we call libraries of things. So non-traditional materials that libraries check out. Bismarck for many years has checked out fishing poles, for instance, but a lot of libraries have taken the dive into the libraries of things. I know Devil's Lake library, Lake Region Library in Devils Lake, has a ladder now that they check out. But I think Minot was the first one to check out tools. You were the first ones to have a tool library.
Yep.
You were also one of the first public libraries in the state to have a maker space, like a dedicated space to be creative.
Yeah.
So does children's do anything with the maker space, or is that primarily teen and adult?
That's primarily teen and adult. We always have like ideas. We're like, oh my gosh, you should have that there. And they're like, stop, we have to do it. Yeah, but it's definitely heavily used. It's interesting now because my son is 12 and he's transitioning from children's programs to teen programs. So I find him more now in the maker space when he comes, and he is so down with 3D printing and playing all the cool games. So it's interesting to see it through his eyes as opposed to my own backward, like back of house view of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always fun to kind of have that vision through a patron's eyes, and you have like really are getting feedback probably at a different level since you're mom and not just librarian or whatever.
Yeah, he was really excited. He got to beta test Pam's new escape room this last week with his brother. So they were like helping find the kinks and do all that, and they feel like they work here at this point.
Ironically, my mom was a librarian in the town that I grew up in. And I did kind of live at the library. I started volunteering at a pretty young age. And then when I was 18, I was doing my first story time as a volunteer, which led to a career in libraries. And I absolutely love it. Yeah. What are some of the things that you hope to introduce now that the remodel is quote unquote done?
Well, I don't know if it's introducing anything quite yet. So we did introduce the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten Challenge, which has been great.
And tell us what that is for listeners who might not know.
Oh, sure. So it is a challenge. You want kids to get through 1,000 books before they get to kindergarten because it's going to help them. They're learning new words through vocabulary. They're learning concepts, even as young babies, of how books work, how language works. And it's pretty darn important, even if you're reading the same book to them over and over and over again.
Does that count? Like if you read the same book 5 times, does that count as 5 books or it counts as 1 book?
It counts as 5 books. I tell you what. And then ours is a little different too. So we, like at the end, we haven't had anyone finish yet. I can't wait. The kids, for every 50 books that they read, they get a little token out of our treasure box. And it's interesting because we have like rattles and chewy things for the little babies, and then slap bracelets and fidgets for the 3-4-year-olds. And then at the big end, we've got all sorts of fun stuff, but we got like a bumper sticker for mom, dad, whomever, that's like my kid read 1,000 books before kinder. And caregiver is gonna get a $10 gift card to the coffee shop, because you know what, we understand who is doing all of the work there. I want you to be recognized too. But I think right now I'm really working on going back to the programs that we currently do and figuring out how to make them better. A program, it's constantly evolving and changing. We have one right now, Smart Start, and it's really to kind of bridge the gap, because preschool, there's a cost to preschool in North Dakota, or at least in Minot. I don't know if it's true throughout the state. So it helps kids learn the skills that they need for kindergarten. So often you'll see these kids and they've got a bubble in their mouth and they're walking around the library in a line. And, you know, they're stopping and looking at things, but still keeping that bubble in their mouth. And they're working on grabbing a tissue out of a tissue box, and blowing their nose and zipping up a coat, learning to sit and listen, and make a choice and cut and use a pen. And those are, we think so hard about what skills we want to incorporate into that. And we're seeing quite a bit of success. So this summer, we're going to have it twice a week instead of just once a week. So those are some of the program, like how can we improve? How can we fill the need? With our little baby program, LabSit, we have this great gal here. She runs it, and she has a music degree, which is great because when you're doing a story time for the little folk, they don't want to read book after book after book. You've got to make it fun and exciting, and you know, using grasping skills with scarves and rattle skills, and the singing just makes it really fun. So it's a lot of those things. Like how can we work these skills in? And then when you're working with more the school-aged kids, it's soft skills that you don't see in school so much anymore, like teamwork, being able to make a plan, being able to adjust the plan, talking about the plan. How did you adjust the plan when you did it? So it's really, yeah, honing those things in, making every program as great as it can be. We're kind of at our limit of how much we can produce. So let's produce the best things that we can.
Sure, that makes sense. You can only do so much with the when you have limited resources, there's only so much you can do, but doing it the best way possible is a great goal to have. And I bet some of our listeners who haven't been in a library recently or haven't been in the children's area because their kids are older, like my son's 30, you know, it's been a minute since I've been to a story time, other than if I get invited to a library and get the joy of, you know, quote unquote, doing story time, which I realize I'm only reading the stories. I'm not doing all the work of pulling them together and, you know, all of that. But I'll bet some people are surprised to hear you say that libraries are working on soft skills in kids because they just don't connect the literacy that we're doing. They don't even think about it as literacy.
Right.
And really, you're doing skills literacy.
Yeah.
Which is so important.
Hardcore. Yes.
Yes. So, and people are probably surprised to hear that, you know, that's, it's actually, I find myself going, oh, skills literacy. Like that's a literacy that libraries work on and don't even connect the dots that we're doing literacy in that area.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, it's so important. Like there are not as many like group projects in elementary school and high school as there used to be. And being able to do something in a team, and take feedback, and that is a skill necessary when you grow up and you get a job. It's a life skill. And if it's not being honed at school, we need to hone it somewhere. So that's what we're working on.
Randy, I love that so much. What is one thing you want our listeners to know about your library? It can be specific to the children's area. It can be the library as a whole.
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one, Mary. I guess I just want them to know that it's not quiet.
Oh my gosh, so true. So true.
We have so many people come in and they got like these little kids and they're like, we have to whisper in the library. And I'm like, no, you don't. It's all good. And, you know, we have people upstairs that are like, I can't read because there's a kid screaming downstairs. I'm like, yeah.
That's life.
Right? Like, we have people here, people that are part of your city. Maybe you don't see them all the time. They're here. We have kids, we got everybody, and it's just not a quiet place. So don't expect it to be quiet. Don't shush your kids. Let them be themselves.
I love that. I can remember the last public library where I was director at before I moved to North Dakota, I remember a patron coming up to me at like 3:30, 4 o'clock and complaining about the noise. And I talked with the patron for a little bit. And finally I said, my recommendation is that you come in to use the computers before 3 or after 6.
Yeah.
Because from 3 to 6, we are overrun with kids after school. And we
Yes.
love that. And we are not shushing them. Heck, I've been shushed by patrons before. So, you know,
So have I.
it's libraries that we work at definitely are not quiet. You know, but I love that that's your one thing you want people to take away. It's important. It's important for people to know that. And of
Set
course,
expectations.
you know, I have to ask, I won't ask for a favorite author or for like your absolute favorite.
Okay.
You know, like the favorite, but who is a favorite author or a book that you've read recently that you just loved?
So author-wise, I'm a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan. But I want to give a shout out to a book I read recently. It's called Whale Fall, and it's by Daniel Cranes, I believe. And it was so weird, surreal. I don't know that many people would like this book. I think they should give it a try. But it was crazy, and it was a really interesting time in my life, and it spoke volumes to me in that moment in my life.
Okay.
And that is what I love about books in general, is that you maybe read a book 10 years ago and it was okay, but then you read it in that right moment in your life and you're like, mind blown. I love that feeling so much.
Oh, I agree. Whenever someone says to me, well, I don't read, I respond with, then we haven't matched you with the right book yet.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because there really is a book for everyone, and books speak to us at different moments in our life. Absolutely. I was just talking with one of my nieces about this the other day, and I threw this out and she was like, wait, what? So every time a new Harry Potter book was released, my son and I went back to one and we reread all the books in the series in anticipation of the next one, right? So the first book I had read at least 7 times.
Right.
Then I moved to North Dakota. My family's in Illinois, and every year my husband and I drive from North Dakota to Illinois for Christmas, twice a year usually, you know. And that's one book that we can listen to in common. My husband listens to a lot of partial audiobooks because I play them and he has no choice. But like that's one we can listen to the whole book together, right? So I've lived here for 10 years. I'm not kidding that I probably have listened to the Harry Potter books each 12 times, if not. So I said that the other day. I was like, I've read Harry Potter probably 20 times. And my niece was like, what? Every time I read it, I'm not kidding. Every time I read it, there's a question that I hadn't thought of the first 20 times I read or listened to the book. You know?
Yeah.
I love that. And you can read books over and over again.
Yeah. I have favorites that I'll read like every year or every other year. Keep going back to and trying to find new things or the way the language is. It's really great.
That's awesome. Randi, thank you so much for joining me today on Pathways Through the Prairie. I have really enjoyed our conversation. I've enjoyed learning more about you and your entry into our shared field, as well as more about your library and all the amazing things that your library, specifically children's, but your library in general, is doing to meet the needs of your community. It's been really fun.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it.
With more than 600 courses, there's something for every learner in Universal Class. You can now sign up with a free account with your state library card or your local public library card. Access courses in crafts and hobbies, computer training, health and fitness, finance, music, pet care, writing, and so much more. Courses are self-guided, but you'll get feedback from a real human instructor who grades every assignment. Most courses are accredited and provide continuing education units, which are widely recognized by employers and educators. Sign up for a Universal Class account and start learning today.